It's looking like a pretty good turnout.
39, 40.
Brain, how are you?
A couple more people just dropping in. We'll just give them 1 more minute here. All right, well, we'll get started here. It's 5 after. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is a bit of a test project for us for offering kind of a virtual member session. My name is Jeff Chandler. I'm the Director of Programs and Education and Programs for CASI, and I'm joined here by Luc Belanger, who's the National Technical Assistant. And I also, just scanning the list, I see Andrew McCraney is in the room here. He's our Ontario Regional Coordinator. And we also have Breen Trott, who is a national technical team member. So thanks for logging in. We are encouraged to see what's happened in the last week or so in Ontario. So this invite for this session for CASI members went out to Ontario, Quebec, and Atlantic members. And man, what a season you guys have had out there. I'm based in the West in BC here, and between challenging weather in Atlantic and restrictions in Quebec, and then complete lockdown in Ontario, you guys have definitely dealt with some struggles this year. So we're, like I said, we're happy to see lifts spinning again in Ontario, and some sliding going on and some snowboarding going on. So we're stoked for you guys. I'm going to turn it over to Luc Belanger here to kind of steer the remaining part of this presentation. And the goal here today was just to provide a bit of a technical check-in for you guys with the help of some video, maybe some a little bit of ANI kind of tune-up, and ANI sort of kind of a feedback focus on some kind of just randomly selected clips of some snowboarders that we have in our library of video here. So Luc, why don't you take over from here, and I'll watch the waiting room as people drop in and let people in.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jeffers. Hi, everyone. Good to see some faces there. I've been scanning the face. Lots of you guys have your camera off, which is great. I also see people having a glass of wine, enjoying some dinner. That is awesome. So welcome, everyone. It's good to see some of the faces, and it's good to see a good turnout here. And as Jeff said, it's been a season to remember, at least for Ontario, you know, having the lifts shut down for a total of 4 weeks. I think we had them shut down there, the full emergency period days, the 28 days. So it felt like more like 108 at times. And especially for those who have kids in the room, you had your kids at home doing some homeschooling. That certainly kept me busy with my 5-year-old doing some online learning. That was pretty entertaining. So we certainly developed some new skills and took up some new activities during this time. But now we're snowboarding, and I hope that most of you guys have I hope that you guys had a chance to get on snow the past couple days. I know I'm at Horseshoe Resort right now, and we fired up again on Tuesday, the 16th. And then we have had excellent snow. And on Tuesday, it was a pow day. We had 20 centimeters, 25 centimeters. So it was a great way to kick it up again. And I even heard some complaining that the snow was too soft, but you didn't hear any complaining from me. So I was out there and we had a great time. So it feels so good to be back on snow. So this was planned before we knew we were going to get back on snow, but it's a great way for us, because we know, like, snow school are not doing a lot of business. Some snow schools are closed, and obviously we don't have as many courses this year. But Andrew, I know there's still some demand, and lots of people stayed in the pipeline, and they're waiting for new dates and getting rescheduled. And I know Andrew's working pretty hard on that, and it's not an easy feat right now to get it all done. It's lots of logistics to take care of. So, but Andrew's demand for the job, so he's doing great. I see him smiling there. That's good. He's still with us, so I'm happy about that. So anyway, some of you guys might get called on to do some courses, maybe even. We've got some evaluators in the room here, or you're going to go back to your snow school and maybe teach a little bit the next few weeks or the next couple months. So this is just a little something to just, sharpen up the skills again a little bit, and sort of all remind ourselves, how do we analyze a rider, how do we, and we're going to focus on that skill, that practical teaching skill of analysis and improvement. And we're going to keep it, it's a very sort of simple session. You've probably been in sessions like that before, where you look at a candidate coming down, right? And you look at them on the screen, and it's like, what's going on here? What do you see that makes you say this person is not a level 1, or this person needs to work on this, or this person has deficiencies in their riding? What do you see that makes you say that? How do you fix those things? What competency does it relate to? Like, all those little things. I'm not putting those in very good order at this time, but we're going to go through it there. And before we jump into the videos there, I believe Jeff, yeah, you did. So Jeff put a link in the chat there for everybody. If you want to go click on that link, but for some reason you don't have your reference guide like opened up, you can also get it through your membership profile, which is very easy thing to do. So if you do have it open, you don't have to, but if you do, page 30, that's where like the skills of analysis and improvement is in there. And some of the points we'll touch on, which is stuff that you've seen before, I'm sure. Resources are there. So there you go. So if you want to follow along as we go, or if you want to dive in there a little bit more after the session, then that's where you'll find some information that we'll talk about here. Also, we're going to keep, I think Jeff has everybody muted there. So if you have like any kind of a comment or things like that, we're going to ask some questions as we play the videos of the riders there. And we're asking you guys to use the chat function like in there to drop an answer to the questions we'll throw out there, right? So if we throw a couple questions as in like, what do you see there like on this rider that's something that tells you that there's something to fix, for example. That'll be my first question shortly here. So you can start getting ready, and you can drop those in the chat there, and then Jeff will monitor the answers there. And then after you guys have had time to do that, then we'll discuss the answers that are coming out, and why more something else and less of something. And if we have some more specific questions, maybe we'll put you on the spot, and we'll unmute you, and then maybe you can tell us where you're coming from with comments like that. But don't worry, it's all in good fun. We're not here to evaluate anybody at this time. We're just here to exchange between a bunch of snowboard instructors, and hopefully that gets, if the stoke is not back up after reopening this week, then hopefully that helps a little bit. So here we go.
Luke, I'm just going to jump in for one point.
Please.
I just wanted to make for this session here. I had a couple emails. We are going to run this session in English only. I know that we have quite a few Quebec members in the room here as well. And I had a couple people email me before. So we will run this session in English only, and we will also be holding some French only sessions in the coming days and weeks as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If there is a French question of any kind, like please drop it in the chat, and Jeff will let me know, and then I'll go take a look at it, and I can answer it for you right now. So
yeah, perfect.
I see some French first and last names like the list of names here, so please don't hesitate. If you can't find the words in English at this time, please drop it in French, and then I'll go take a look. We'll answer it for you. Okay, and I'm also a total amateur at Zoom, so please bear with me. We're going to do some screen sharing, and Jeff and I have gone through everything just before, but if there's a little technical difficulty, please bear with me, okay? But we'll do our best here. So what I'll do is I'll share the first I'll share the first video. We're going to play through like a few times. It's possible that like the quality of the video on your end might be a little bit different than the one I'm looking at. We're going to play it a few times. I'm also going to slow it down and just sort of freeze frame a couple things for you guys as we watch the video. So we'll probably watch it. It's about 30 seconds each. Probably watch it like 2, 3, 4 times together. And for this first video here, just take a look and try to drop just what you see. So you see something happening and that tells you that there's potentially something to fix, right? What is that thing that you see? Don't rush to giving me what you think is wrong or a movement that's not working properly. Like, what do you see? Like, for example, the snow is spraying somewhere, or the board is doing something, or I'm seeing like, you know, upper lower body going in opposite direction, that kind of stuff, right? Something that's like smacks you in the face that you see it. I'm like, oh, we're going to have to work on it. We're going to have to find what's going on here at some point. Okay, so just keep that in mind. When you have your answer, as you're looking at the video, just drop them in the chat there, and then we'll sort of read the answers of what we see there, because obviously there'll be more than one thing for each rider. So don't hesitate. There's no wrong answers here, you know. And if you're just here to just take it all in and just observe, that's cool too. Okay, so here we go. Screen sharing 101. Let's see here. All right, so we'll go and find it here. You should be able to see this. Breen, can you give me a thumbs up? Sweet. All right, let's play it again. So we started, not on purpose here, with the level 3 candidate video. So a little bit more advanced riding here, right? I'm going to slow it down a little bit to help you guys out. Keep your eye out. Definitely should hear something from Sergio in there. Level 4 candidate.
So we got a couple comments in the chat. First comment, just simply the word center.
Okay.
I'm assuming that that refers to something to do with position. Mr. McCraney, heel side, camping out on the heel side. That's a common thing. So kind of
camping out.
Yeah.
I love camping.
Oh, there's Sergio. Vertical movement, fairly static. So not a lot of up and down vertical movement. So
okay. Those things are all true. Okay, he's getting a little.
Green Trot says she's shredding. This is true. This is good, pretty good riding going on here.
That was probably Michelle right beside you, wasn't it, Breen? You're just stealing her answer. Yeah. Okay, one more time. Hopefully it's coming okay. It's showing pretty good on my screen right now. It's not too grainy, so hopefully it's the same for you. So a strong rider overall. You know, there's some good things going on there. And good things, like if you want to, we tend to focus on the fairly things to fix, or the negative things that like right away when we analyze a rider, but there's also lots of good thing going on in this guy's riding, right? Or this person's riding, I should say. I don't know if that's a guy, that's a male or female, this person's riding. So those are all like good comments as well. So what do we think? I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see all of you guys. So what do we have in the chat here? Let's see.
剩下的些
Couple more
right.
comments from the chat. Too much weight on the back foot, leaning back a little bit. And
Okay.
someone else said that there's a solid edge set and hold, which I would agree with that. So definitely a good ability to put the board on edge and hold it there for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. Like it's and we started with a bit of a tougher one there. Like I said, like I didn't mean to start with the level 3 candidates, just the first video that I clicked on there. So my apologies on this one. I threw you guys in the deep end of the pool right away. So I like there's a comment on there that it's the vertical movement is fairly static. I like that one from Sergio. I kind of put you on the spot there, so good for you. I do see those things as well, right? Like I see this rider is like, there's some good things going on. I see a lot of static in his riding, right? Like there's not a lot of movement fore and aft. There's not a lot of movement side to side. There's not a lot of movement up and down, right? And in those cases, and as he gets into the sort of the steeper part of the run there, it gets a little bit steeper about halfway through the video, then you can see it starts to highlight like a few of those things there where we're seeing a solid edge set and hold, but I agree that like at times the weight is not really where it should be, right? It can be a little bit more towards the back. I see there's a bit of weight on the back foot, and it depends when in the turn that weight on the back foot is. Right? If there's a bit more weight on the back foot as you get towards like sort of the end of the turn, right? Then that might not be a bad thing necessarily, right? Like to bring a bit of pressure to the tail and just like create some grip there. If we're on the back of the board right at the beginning of the turn, then that might put us in a bit of a tougher position for sure. So if we see some of those symptoms, we see that there's a lot of static going on there. Let's say that's one thing that we see there. So let's play this video again here and look at it again now and see, maybe we take this static or like things that we're seeing here and why do we think that's happening? What do we think is causing him to stay like that static and that stiff on the board? Because I agree with that. This guy looks pretty stiff to me. Or this person, I should say again. My apologies. Let's look at it again. And this person's pretty good at hiding stuff too. Not an easy person to, but look at this position here, for example. Like if you freeze frame it, right? Watch enter the turn there. So that's looking pretty good right there. Coming into the entrance, that's looking a little different. Moving the hips across the board as it gets onto the new edge. That's pretty good. What do we think of this position right here? Drop it in the chat halfway through the turn. Anticipating, keeping a fairly open position. And this is where someone said the back foot. I'm going to throw my own comment on there, and on this turn, you'll see it on the next one. I'm seeing more front foot on the heel side, which I heard some camping out on the heel side earlier. Maybe there's a link there. Oh, sorry. So if you played through, this person getting on it's going to get on the heel side here. And then if you freeze frame it there, where's the weight now? Is it more towards the back or towards the front of the snowboard, right? And then does it come to the back foot and the heel side before the end of the turn or right here? I'm seeing the turn's already done there. So that stayed pretty close to the front foot most of the way, right? Which makes this transition from heel to toe look a little wonky, amongst other things. What do we got in the chat, Jeff?
So we got a couple things, definitely seeing heavy, well, one comment, heavy back foot, not sure where or which turn exactly. Front hip moving forward, so front hip forward. Comment about fighting the rotational energy in the last phase of the heel side turn. So I think that kind of refers to where the what the upper body's doing a little bit more. Too much inclination is another comment there as well. And you can kind of see that at the top of that toe side turn, a pretty heavy incline move at the top of the toe side turn for sure. And then a couple other comments about leaning back because maybe uncomfortable at that speed and terrain, or being a little stiff just due to being a little uncomfortable in that at that speed or in that steeper terrain. And then one last one, comment in French, actually, just referring to at the edge change, they're not showing kind of a ready position at the edge change. So
I like that. I think that those are all true. I think that with this rider here, the main thing that's going on, like it's like, again, we go back to what we see at first, right? So the first thing that all stood out to a few of us here is like, you know, his position on the board, right? Where is he on the board? That's a really quick thing to see, right? And another thing that's like really nice to see, especially in a higher end rider, and we can't see it on this video, is the track in the snow is also a really good way to go look for things, right? If you need to look for something. The track in the snow will tell a story of where the weight is at what time and where the performance is coming. And if there's any, you know, a carved turn. If you're asking someone to carve, you look at the track in the snow, doesn't matter what they look like. If there's not a pencil line on the snow, then it's not happening, right? So that's a clear sign that there's something that needs to be tweaked. So now we know there's something to be tweaked with this rider here. And I think that we're slowly gravitating towards like a position thing, right? So if we talk about some of the competencies there, which is our filter, right? We want to look through the competency to try to find that deficiency, right? Which is that's the process we're going through right now. Now we have a probable cause, right? Which is probably position at some point in the turn on the board is not quite there. And then we need to sort of maybe tweak that a little bit. And hopefully that will help other things we're seeing, right? And I think position and balance being the base of the pyramid there for the most part, for the skills. We don't have a pyramid skills anymore, but it's the foundation, right? If we're able to tweak that position and get that person in the right spot at the right time, right? We may see some benefits in other areas as well, I find. So here with this guy, like I'll share it again. One last time, we'll look at it here and then look at like position and look into a centered mobile position, right? We're seeing a somewhat centered position, but not very mobile, right? It's centered at times, but it's not in and around the center all the time, right? On the toe side, this person tends to get a bit more towards the back foot, which helps them, right? They're able to get lots of grip there. And then on the heel side, the other thing that's really easy to see there that's caused by position, I believe, if he's towards the front of the board that way, right? Is it a really good place? Do you have full mobility when you're in that spot? If you're way to the front and you push your hips towards the front like that, right? Like you end up being you get locked in that position. This guy, like Andrew nailed it. He's camping on the heel side. He's sort of camped over his front foot and he's waiting for something to happen. Right? That's what it looks like to me. But if he was maybe a bit more mobile, right? That mobility of centered and mobile, moving in and around the center of the snowboard, then that person would be able to actually make things happen on the snowboard. And if you look at the turn, the angle is tricky as well, which tells that same story is like, you know, look how quickly the toe side turn comes around compared to the heel side turn. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoop, we lose him. So good grip, fairly quick around this one. It's much different, right? This turn is a lot rounder on the toe side, especially in the first part of the turn. Cool. Are we ready to go to another rider? Any other thoughts? Let's look in the chat. What do we got in there, Jeff?
That's pretty much it.
It's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that mean that everyone agrees with me? That's okay. Et au changement de quart, la personne n'est pas en position prête. Okay, that's the one you said earlier, Jeff. Like they're not in the ready position at the transition, at the edge change. And I totally agree with that. One side, like it's half and half. It's sort of 50-50 what I'm seeing here. So anyway, so I think that with this rider, you can take it back to like a bit, even if it's a level 3 candidate here, like you take that, it's often what you need to do is bring it back to the basics there with a person like that, right? Maybe ride, like bring the speed down, bring the terrain down, right? And let's just focus on like, keeping that nice center position and starting to feel the weight building a bit more under the back leg, under your back foot as you come around the heel side, rather than feeling the pressure building under your front foot, right? So little things you can give them is sort of a cue, right? An internal cue. You should be feeling like the base, the bottom of your back foot heel towards the end of the heel side turn. You should feel pressure building up under there more than your front foot. If you can give them some sensations that are tangible, they can latch on, something that might help them there. Cool. Good start. All right. Should we share another one there, Jeff?
Sounds good.
Let's go.
Go to the level 1 one there.
Yeah. I'm going to try to pick the right one this time. Let's see here. Let's get out of this one. L1 So this will be a little bit more familiar to everyone and a little bit easier to put our finger on the button there. So I'll do the same. I'll let it play a few times. I'll slow it down for you guys. So this is a level 1 candidate. So, I don't know who's filming. They have little comments. They're not inappropriate, but I'll shut them off.
Yeah, that's video analysis 101. Turn the volume off.
You never know what you've been saying under your breath while you're watching them coming down. So big difference from the rider we were just looking at.
And the other thing that's different as I watch this is that the intention is different, right? So that's a really important thing to remember when you're analyzing, is that the intention of the first rider was kind of that big open carved turn, whereas the context here is different. It's sort of that medium-ish size, more sliding turn in taking up a smaller corridor, right? So that's going to affect how we analyze, and it sort of speaks to the idea of tolerance a little bit, and just sort of knowing what the intended outcome is of the maneuver before we start to do any analysis.
Excellent point. I'll slow it down as they go.
All right, a couple comments. So stiff on the heel side, very stiff, not a lot of movement. Initiating with the upper body is another comment there. Using too much upper body is another one. And then pivot only on the front foot.
Kind of all twisted up there a little bit, eh? Look how easy the back of the board comes around. What does that tell us? I'm looking at where the snow is spraying a little bit there. Seems like it's coming at me. Right, some clear signs that there's something that could be tweaked there, right? It is level 1, just remember the intention here, as Jeff pointed out, very good point.
A couple more comments. Too much pressure on the front foot, and looking to get more and earlier turning performance from the lower body, and lack of movement. There's a couple other comments that came in there.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely agree with that one. Lack of turning with the lower body. Like I'm looking at the signs here, like I was saying, the snow, right? Like I see sort of the snow sprays like down and quite late in the arc. See a touch of chattering here and there. In that position, yeah. The upper and lower body coordination, I'm going to call it here, right? Look at how we finish the heel side. Whoever said like turning with the lower body to start the toe side turn, I'm totally seeing that too. Come around the heel side, and here the shoulder is already started the next turn by as he's trying, or as they're trying to finish the heel side turn. And it gets them in this like weird kind of pretzel position, right? Not quite a pretzel, but you see here, like they're essentially counter rotated. Like he's thinking about the next turn and he's not finishing this one. And then as he start, the effect here, and to combine with this position that's a bit towards the front there, look how quick the board comes around and there's basically no grip there. Which equals like, are those turns really round? Not really, eh?
Yeah, definitely not a lot of shape or roundness to the turn. It's more like the turns are there to kind of dump the speed. Actually, Sergio's comment was that it's basically dumping speed more than turning. Some turns
100%.
have no. Some turns actually have no spray. Some of the toe turns.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that absolutely. So, this person, like, if you look at all three basic competencies, or, the core competencies there, turning with the lower body is one. Could this person benefit from being a little bit more in the center of the board? Probably. Do we start with that first? We get that person in the right spot, and then we show them how to use their lower body properly to turn the board. And we're seeing a bit of chattering as well, right? Like not much shape. So there's not a lot of grip there. There's not a lot of edging happening, right? Which speaks to that balance over the working edge, right? So we're easily seeing like little deficiencies, like in all three of the competencies there. So my question here is, what do we attack first? We talked about level of tolerance. So that's your next question for the chat. Drop it in the chat. What do we fix first here with this person?
So Adam Lowe is suggesting first competency, probably centered and mobile position. And then Adam also made a comment there. The stance is quite wide and there's no vertical movement. So the leg length is similar throughout. So that would maybe speak to that, maybe lack of mobility in the centered plus mobile is a big thing.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I wonder, however, if this person starts like flexing up and down, I don't know if that's going to help them at this point. I'm not sure that would help them. Maybe it helps them find the center of the board. If there's a bit more movement there, it's kind of awkward if you're going to try to bend and you're only on one leg. It's definitely, and you have a stiff other leg. It might be a little challenging there for sure. Mm-hmm. But I agree. Like there's not a lot of mobility. There's not a lot of anything going on, and that's pretty harsh. Of course.
Yeah, I'm just.
And I understand the irony of me pointing it out, having ridden 24 inches for like 10 years.
No, but it's a good point. Thank you for saying that, Adam. It's equipment. We glance over that a lot, and maybe like it makes the width of the stance and where they're standing on the board, right, can make like a huge difference and how they're able to move on the snowboard, right? And, for myself, I can just say like I went years without touching my stance until like I started changing it again. And now I'm always changing it, right? And trying to find like, I jumped back on my board after 4 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it was. And like, it felt awesome. And then I look at my board and it's like, you know, something felt different. And I was like, I changed my stance probably the last day that I was out riding and I hadn't had time to check it out. So here we go. I had like a weird stance, but you know what? Like it was great to test the pros and cons there. It's like, okay, I stay the same width, but I changed that angle. It's okay. It feels kind of funny at this part of the turn, but I really like it here. And then I went to the park and I'm like, well, I don't love it here, but you know, it's pretty good on the way to and from. And like, so those are a good thing. And that's a good point in that if you're an evaluator and you're on course, it's certainly a good discussion to have. And the same thing with clients that come to the snow school. And, you know, I'm sure everyone would raise their hand if you teach actively that, like, you know, we have helped with someone set up walking out of the rental shop that we know right away that that's going to make life hard for someone. And we do see that at a higher level as well. You know, I've seen that on level 4 course where we make equipment recommendation and setup recommendation, like at the highest level. So sometimes we don't be caught into set it and forget it all the time. So it's not always the biggest thing, but if you can make a quick tweak to the equipment, then that makes the person feel more comfortable, and then they can move a little bit differently, then that might get them to where they want to go. So
yeah, and if we talk about that idea of tolerance, sometimes it's easier to attack the lowest hanging fruit there. So when we decide on what to deal with, we have that kind of TTPPEE model: technical, tactical, physical, psychological, environment, and equipment. And to me, the two easiest things to change are the terrain that you're riding on and the equipment setup. Right? It's really hard to change someone's psychological or physical state in a 2-hour lesson. And the technical and tactical, we really get focused in on the technical side, the movements we're asking them to make, or maybe the speed they're going at. But simply going to easier terrain or harder terrain or making adjustments to help them stand more comfortably on the board might be enough to give them that improvement that you're looking for.
Yeah, and that's a good one there. Like, I mean, the terrain is always like one that if someone at that level, if they're learning something new, like, you know, maximum speed on minimum terrain, this person can get like a bit more of a feeling, bring him to shallower terrain and open up the turns, and just, you know, you're working on getting this person standing in the right spot. You know, then you slowly take it over, or just slowing it down a little bit, you know, get back to the fundamentals. Like it's often what you have to do there.
I'm just looking at the chat here, and if we were to attack it from more of a technical standpoint, Andrew made the comment, centering isn't too bad. I might hit turning with the lower body first with some steering tactics to, I would kind of agree with that one, just to get a little bit more activity in that lower body to turn the board and not rely on that sort of mixed up timing between upper body and lower body so much.
Yeah, totally. And then, you know, if you start telling person they have to like turn their back foot as well as their front foot, you know, and start creating some steering there, they're going to have to stand over it a little bit more for that to happen. So maybe you kill two birds with one stone. You know, you never know what changes you make somewhere might have positive effects like in another area, and then never know. So that's a great point.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go find another video here. What do we got? Let's see. Let's go back on this one. How are my screen sharing skills doing? You guys are doing analysis right now. It's good. Adam Lowe's giving me the. That's a big endorsement. Okay, this next video, Adam, you'll love it. There's lots going on.
I'm 100 and need glasses and I can see everything. So you're doing very well.
Well, yeah. We're not getting any younger, are we? All right. Level 2 candidate. There's lots to look at in this one. That skier's killing it. Their double pole plant. That's actually a drill in skiing called the Norwegian pole plant. Anybody have ever done that? It's like you double pole plant on either side, help you with separation. That guy wasn't doing it right. He wasn't doing it right. All right, so lots going on. Oh, she was telling the skier to let him go. I didn't see that. Okay, so we're saying the other folks we've looked at so far, there wasn't a lot of movement, but this person, I feel there's a lot of movement. I wonder if she needs all those movements though.
Yeah, that's the comment so far in the chat there. Unnecessary movement. Kind of, yeah, pretty much just lots of up and down movement going on, maybe too much. Yeah. The one thing I do see though with this one is the amount of edge that translates into a pretty high spray through most of the turns is pretty good. So fairly aggressive on the edges, which creates some spray kind of out to the sides, more to the bottom of the turn probably, but at least it starts earlier in the arc.
Look where the snow's coming from. What part of the board is it coming from? That tells you where the weight is. Or gives you an idea.
Definitely less on the heels as well. Yeah, way more toes spray than heels. Heavy break at the hips. So
yep,
looking at the position there, especially on that toe side. Upper body, just reading the comments here, upper body on the toe side is kind of hunchback with immediate movement, upsetting, balancing capability. So kind of, yeah, getting outside of that sort of around the center, maybe a little too soon.
You know what? I really like that.
Yeah.
Upsetting. What was it, Jeff? Read that one again.
Upsetting, balancing capability.
To movement. Yeah, that's cool. It's true, I think.
Bending at the waist on the toe turns. Yeah.
Nope, froze on me. I find the edging effort on the toes comes late.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, give her another little talk with the skier. Don't cut me off. Okay, no big deal.
A couple other comments here. So Jason Hewitt mentions that he's looking for tactics that would result in a consistent speed for this rider. So, and you can kind of see that in the video too. It's very kind of stop start. So the end of the turn becomes a little bit jammy, right? So,
especially on the toe.
Yeah.
And what looking at it like again there, I don't mind the heel side turn, but I think there's definitely some things there. So that's a level 2 candidate. We're playing with the core competencies there. So where do we start with this person?
Comment from Andrew, focus more on steering and less on vertical movement is a suggestion.
That is good advice. So let's look at what that looks like when we go on the heel side. So focus more on the steering instead of the movements. And toe side, there's no preferred side, but the one that stands to me, I tend to want to improve the stuff that's really close, which is not always the right strategy. But she comes on the heel side there, and when she gets to here, we see how she's already going into the toe side, but the heel side still has a little bit to go. I find that if her position was just a touch open there, and then we had sort of the hips open up just a little bit, and then that person could have a better balance on the working edge and finish off that heel side a little bit and make that transition to the toe side a lot smoother. So toe side, we dive with the arm there. You see it, right? You see the body sort of rotated down the hill already, when really the feet should be ahead of the upper body there, not the other way around. And it takes all the way to the end of the turn for the feet to catch up and the upper body and lower body to get in that sync a little bit. And that's causing her some trouble for sure.
One of the common ways I usually deal with that at that end of those heel side turns, you can kind of see her eyes are directed down the hill at the end of those heel side turns. And just having this rider direct her eyes across the hill towards the trees would be her right, can sometimes fix that up a little bit just to get that upper body kind of finishing and not diving across so early into the toe side. But that's a very common thing we see at this level, is that the eyes are always looking down the fall line and not necessarily looking through the turn to round out those turns. Comment here, practice larger radius turns to get movement synced. I would agree with that. Just a chance to slow down the timing a little bit in a bigger turn. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say with this person, like the not nice, long, drawn out carves on a green run might be something that will help. Like you need to move less and move with purpose, not move because you can, move when you need to, right? And then you dive into which movement you want to do at what time. But there's some great comment on there on a video. There's like someone that it's, you know, we saw quite static the other two before, and she's anything but static, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to bring her home, right? Nice. That was a good one. A bit challenging. So, let me stop share. Challenging, this whole Zoom sharing thing. I'm telling you, I'm learning lots as I go here. Right on. So good discussions on there. But I think the thing that I come back to a lot, the thing that stands out to me right away, amongst other things, I'm saying lots of things, but the roundness of the turns, you can't cheat that. Like that cannot be cheated, right? Like you can have like, are the turns nice and round? Yes or no, right? If the turns are more like this and then a really round one and then really round one, that really stands out. That's a sign that, you know, what's causing that? Let's go find what's causing that. And maybe a couple things. Okay, which one do we work on first? You know, and then delivery improvement. It's those 4 steps here that we've had in the manual for many, many years that you'll find on page 30 of your reference guide is, you know, establish your ideal. What are you looking for, right? Use the competency as your filter. It's like, okay, what are we seeing? Go find the cause. What's causing what you're seeing? What's causing the chattering? What's causing the snow to spray down the hill? What's causing her to break down at the waist? Like what's causing like the turns not to be round? You know, what's causing like losing an edge all the time? You know, things like that. So you dive in, find the cause. Once you have that, then you might have more than one cause, right? And you got to choose which one you want to fix first. And that's where, you know, it's a judgment call there, right? You try to aim the thing that's, you know, gonna have a big impact, right? That's gonna fix like sort of the start from the position, right? Like start from looking far away. What does that look like? And as they get closer, you can pinpoint and like, you know, just make the little changes that you need to make there. How are we doing for time? 8:51 already. Oh my goodness. Time is flying when you're having fun. We got one more for you guys. You guys good for one more? You guys are all muted, so I can't really hear you, but I'm sure we got some thumbs up. Let's go back and find, we had 2 for the level 3. We watched this one already. Let's watch this one. All right, here we go. Adam Lowe, you have to spot the piece of equipment. That's pretty cool. I didn't. Jeff had to tell me.
Where's the giveaway right at the end there? Oh yeah, there was a giveaway at the end. Sergio got it. Hard boots.
So this guy's on hard boots.
So this person,
it's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, this person's a recent level 3 candidate, had a motorcycle accident or an injury over the summer, so has an ankle issue. But so you can see right at the end there. So he's basically riding a hard boot, like a softish hard boot, but mounted in kind of like a conventional sort of free ride on a free ride board in a free ride stance. So just as a means of dealing with a physical injury. But from afar, it's really hard to tell. Like he does a pretty good job of making some good movements for sure.
As he wants it right there, eh? There's that move. He wants it.
Yeah.
He wants to load the board a little bit more at the end.
Yeah.
But I see it there. I see where the snow's going. It tells you what's happening with that back foot if you look at where the snow's going. Solid riding, really. Like, I mean, there's some great stuff there.
So I think
what else we got in the chat?
Let's see, little late loading on the toes, which I can see that.
Yep.
Pushes back foot down the hill and doesn't let momentum cross over into the next turn, which you can see that right there, especially.
He's not driving the board across the fall line. He's pushing it down the hill.
Down, yeah. So when we sort of jump up into like that level 3, level 4 realm, those competencies, those core competencies are still there. Those 3 basic core ones, centered and mobile and turning with the lower body and balance over the edge. And then we can kind of layer on top some of the more advanced kind of outcomes of strength and flow. So is the rider standing in a position to withstand some forces, and is there some fluidity to their movements? Arc to arc is another thing that we look for. So are they able to create those round turns, and more importantly, link those round turns together with some efficiency? And loading and deflection is the third one of there. So using the bend in the board by positioning the mass to the inside and getting the board bending, and using that bend to send the rider across the fall line. And then the last one is that steering versatility. So steering being any of the movements we can make to change direction, any pivot, edge, or pressure movement. And do we have versatility in that? So one turn might require heavy pivot and low edge, and the next turn might require a heavy edge and low pivot, or a combination of any of those 3. So with this level of rider, we definitely start to look for some of those outcomes for sure.
Yeah, the transition for him, what would make a big difference? Here's what I see there. I agree. Someone said like the snow is getting pushed down the hill rather than being driven across the fall line, right? You could totally see it. There's a back leg extension, right? That one's a little better, but there, right? You see it really well. You saw that right at the end, right? And the reason why he's doing this there is, take a look at where he is on the board, right? And we talk about the transition from one turn to the next, right? Like, so why do we see that move towards the tail a little bit that anybody see me riding that I totally overdo because I think it feels awesome, which is not always a good reason. Like this guy here, you can see the equipment right there very well. That gets pushed instead of being like, like coming like, across the fall line and just getting the grip on the tail to help him start the next turn. But he is a little touch over the front foot towards the end of the turn there, where really you should be a little bit more over the back foot to get that grip right at the end that will help you get that little bit more load in the board and will really help you. The reason why we do this move, or so many people do it, is that it's, as I said earlier, it gives you that spring to like, help you get into the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
And by him pushing down the hill rather than flexing his ankle and continue to steer, right? Like give him that roundness on the heel, that would like help his toe turn get started like a lot easier, and vice versa.
Yeah, the comments here, push on the back foot, or sorry, push on back, not even shift, but more push down with back. Sorry, I'm not really interpreting that one very well.
I would say too that like his shift, he's trying for it, then he's gonna get there. This person just needs to move it up the turn a little bit, right? Like that change that towards the back foot, that shift fore and aft needs to happen progressively throughout the turn, and not at the very end when the turn is sort of over, right?
Yeah, the interesting thing watching from the top of the run here, if I look at those competencies, so one of the things that with that loading and deflection competency that I always look for is that little bit of acceleration or a little bit of zing out of the bottom of the turn. And this rider really shows it well coming out of the toe side. And you can actually see that little bit of acceleration across the fall line out of the toe side. And it's not quite there on the heel side. So that And it's just like you said, there's that direct result of not quite as much grip at the end of the heel side turn, which results in less loading, which results in less deflection. So from the top of the run here, you can really see clearly on the end of the toe side turns, that little bit of acceleration and move from right to left right here.
And on the heel side, he's not getting that zing as Jeff is talking about, and then you end up having to start over, right?
Yeah.
So that means that like he could, the consequences, get good performance on the toe side regardless, more from like mid turn to the end of the turn, but like not a lot at the top of the turn because you didn't get that zing at the end of the heel side, right? So if you want to find something's not quite right at the top of the toe side, you go back up the phase and go see what's happening at the end of the heel side. That will really tell you what's gonna happen in the next turn, right? And same thing with at the end of the toe side, what's going on there? How's that helping his heel side? Because his heel side starts quite well. It's really flowy, right? And the start of the toe side, not so much, right? And that's a direct result of the deflection or lack thereof. Like you could see, thanks for pointing that out, Jeff. You could really see it, especially at the top of the run.
Yeah,
but even there, like look at that, like whoop, like he gets a little push there. The board bends, right? Like you see performance there.
Yeah.
So
not as much on the other one.
Whew, haven't analyzed a plate rider in a long time. Used to be a little bit different back in the day, but there you go. So those were the videos we had with you guys, and that took us right to an hour, which is kind of amazing how quick it went by there. But we didn't have anything more grandiose more than that plan, other than like sharing things with you guys and just like throwing some ideas out there and things that we see when we look at a rider. Hopefully that refreshes your memory and things that you want to look for, and how do we improve folks that are showing those symptoms, and how do we get to that cause? You know how to get there. Right? Like just like it's your advanced competencies, you know what they're your competencies, you know what they are, right? Like use them as your filter. That's how you get your ideal, right? And you know, you're not going to get it right all the time, and that's okay. You know, the client at a snow school, thankfully for us, they don't really know. A candidate on the course might like a little bit more. So you gotta make sure you're a bit more on your game, but you know what? You might try something and it's not going to work super well. You know, but that's okay. Then that means that you can try something else, and hopefully the next thing we'll try, right? Like we have a bag of tricks as instructors to how to fix certain things or how to improve certain things. But the reality of it is every student is different, and some trick that works 90% of the time, well, sometimes you're going to get that guest that comes along and it's not quite going to work the way that it worked in other cases, you know? So it's always a new adventure once you start analyzing a rider and go down the path of trying to improve them, you know, and get them to a point where they could, you know, enjoy snowboarding more, hopefully. So nothing more than this general message for you guys here, but I would encourage you all to go take 5 minutes right now, go in your manual, page 3031, go read it. That's all the time it's going to take you. 5 minutes, refresh your memory on the process of A&I and that teaching skill, which is arguably the most important one. You know, that's what people come for. They want to know how they're doing. They want to know if they're like super good. They want to know what they can work on, you know, and if it's a kid, then they might not be interested, but the parents sure are. So, you know, like showing progress and be able to just identify the things that we can work on and how do we get there. That's an essential skill of an instructor for sure. No doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Andrew McCraney has his hand up.
Yeah, just a really quick point, and that is that A&I can sometimes be challenging, and I know if we're all being honest, we've all found times where we almost feel like we have to make something up because they need to hear something, they need to get. And the thing that's remember is that we're fixing our correcting things, and feedback is just as easy and often more effective. Just look at what they're doing right and be specific. Tell them the specific thing they're doing right. That's every bit as valuable. And it's sometimes if you're having trouble seeing something to fix, that's a really good way to give some really effective feedback and keep it positive without always looking for solving problems.
Yeah. So I treat that one, and that happens to me. It happened to me tonight again. The first time you look at the video, first one, I was like, whoa, I don't know what to say. Let's look at it again. Let's look at it again, you know, and you find something. But one little tip for you guys there, if you miss a student coming down, or if you see a student and you don't really know what to say, you could just say something like this. That helps me, is like, I didn't quite see you there. So that was perfect. Okay, let's go back up. We'll take another look and make sure, you know, things like that, that it's, if you don't have anything to say, or you don't know what to say, that's okay. You know, they don't know that you potentially have something to say, or you should have something to say. So don't worry. You look at it a second time. Sometimes it takes more than one look to figure out, like, you know, how do we fix this little thing that we're seeing? Sorry, Adam, you had your hand up, I think. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah, I agree. Andrew, I put that earlier in the chat that I find it's, when I'm doing video analysis in particular, I find it very difficult to find that positive first. All the negatives are kind of bombarding me, right? So excellent point in keeping with our philosophy of, you know, encouraging positive movements. I guess the question I have to Luke and Jeff, and you guys both know this question's coming, is there a point that in the reference guide we could see an expansion in the analysis and improvement section that includes improving, you know, members' knowledge of not only how to analyze video, but also how to properly film video? I think that's something that's lacking in our analysis. We've acknowledged here that it is such a great tool, but having worked with a lot of staff and even rookies and fellow evaluators, I've seen the footage they shoot, and sometimes it, you know, there's got to be some way that we can translate that information to our membership, how to better shoot and analyze video.
I agree, Adam. That's an idea, a good content. Like, I see a good, you know, sort of video analysis about video analysis there, Jeff.
Yeah.
Like, you should always hold your phone this way, never that way. Okay, this way gives you the small video in the middle. This way gives you the full screen when you play it on a computer later.
Yeah,
iPhone in your right hand, tap.
Yeah.
Best way to get the full landscape.
I mean, like where you position yourself on the hill, how to
Totally.
zoom effectively, all these things. I'm not saying we have to have a guest appearance by Martin Scorsese on how to film snowboarding, but I'm sure between our group of tech, there's some really brilliant minds that can come up with a lot of information to share. Valuable information at that.
100. I agree.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Yeah. Great.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Luke. Yeah, we're at just over an hour and 10 minutes there. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Like we said at the start, this is sort of our first crack at these virtual member sessions, and it's something that we've been batting around, ideas we've been batting around for a little while. So watch for more. We've got tons of different ideas for topics, and we're also always open to new topics.
Mm-hmm.
If there's things that, yeah, just send them our way if there's things that you want to hear us discuss or address on these sessions. And yeah, more to come. So thanks very much, everybody.
Yeah, totally. Thank you very much for showing up, and it's good to see you guys. Have a good night, and make sure you go snowboarding soon if you haven't been yet. We don't know how long we're going to have it for. So
Take care, everybody.